Yo, 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 what is going on, IK fam? And we back again today for another dope sauce video. I'm excited as usual because I'm going to talk about something that is always near and dear to my heart. Most of you know what it is. It's the psychology of the game. Wondering why and even how people tick when it comes to things that they do in the game. And today's topic is going to be, we're going to get a little grimy with it. I'm going to be honest. There's probably going to be some emotional fluctuations that are going up and down from my decibel level. The topic today is how everyone... I feel like everyone is strong. Let me backtrack. There are a lot of people out there who want to be alpha, but they really betas. Now, I say this from a standpoint of, right, stay with me. So, one of the main, and I'm going to use a couple examples, but the main one is when it comes to how you view what you want out of a server, what you want out of a kingdom. And let's start with the most obvious, right? If you think about the most obvious thing in the game on what is the most impactful role that people are vying for to be at the top of the pyramid, right? Where, what's a position that you want to be alpha at, right? You want to be Mr. and Mrs. Shot Caller. It's at the R6 position. It's who's going to be king, who's going to be queen. Who's going to be the number one alliance? Who's going to be the number one alliance in your faction? The number one alliance overall, right? Whose voice is going to want theirs to be heard more than another's? And part of this, I think, just comes down to maturity along with experience and knowledge. But I often find this happens a lot in servers and kingdoms. Almost in every server and kingdom that I have been a part of, whether I've played in or I've seen or had friends that have played in, this is a very common trend. Now, what do I mean by this? When I say you have a lot of players out there that want to be alpha, but they ain't. And it's really more of a self-awareness thing, where you'll have players that, and I'll give you the most simplest example. You have probably, if you are someone that has played Kingdom Builders for a while, dear Buddha, you have seen this happen. And I would love to hear your story on this as well, for what some of you have experienced, because I can tell you I've experienced this a couple ways, where you get into a game, you have someone who's running or leading an alliance, but they don't know what they're doing, right? And I'm not talking about a necessarily a first timer, right? Which, to be fair, if you've never ran an alliance before, the first thing you should be doing is learning more about the game, right? The first idea shouldn't be, oh wow, this game is really cool, let me start an alliance and start recruiting people. Dear Lord, stop what you're doing, uninstall. I'm just joking. But what I think you should do, and this is exactly how I approach games, is take time to learn. Before I even started putting out content on YouTube, which was really just because people asked me to put content out, and also because there wasn't any when it came to IK at the time when I joined in during beta back in Server 4, right, a little after it released. I took about a couple weeks just to learn the game. Just to read everything, to click everything, to see what every building did, right? To test out PvE and some PvP engagements, right? To really just have a good understanding of how everything worked and how it ticked. And then I started putting out content. I remember, and what's funny is, this hasn't even come out yet, so this will probably be the first time anyone hears about this. I actually got interviewed by IK. I can't remember, I'd have to go and look specifically, but it was these two lovely ladies, I think from Singapore, China, somewhere in Asia, I'm imagining, just because the connection wasn't that good for like the later half of the call, where it was a little buggy. But I got interviewed for about an hour from the IK team early on, in a voice interview. It hasn't came out yet. I don't know if it ever will. But the interesting thing is when they were talking to me and they were asking me these questions, and I was giving them these answers, right? Some of their comments were, how do you know so much about the game? Or how do you know so much about how these things work? And part of it is because of my previous Kingdom Builder experience, but my experience is a lot more diversified than I think the majority of players, right? For me, I've had an opportunity to run and to manage servers. I've also been on the complete opposite side of it, where I just participated as a player and just watched. I've also done it where I've climbed the ladder and worked my way up, right? Where I became a contributing member socially in game. I would help players. I would answer questions. I got promoted to an officer, eventually led an alliance in some servers. And then I was also a supportive asset and kind of a right-hand man to some people as far as leaders in servers and kingdoms. So, and then on top of that, I've ran my own jumper projects, right? And I've also been a part of successful servers that have stayed at a top level for 2 to 3+ years. And so, I think when you have an opportunity to play in a lot of different servers and kingdoms, it lends more perspective. And so, and as I was explaining to these ladies that, again, right, my experience, the fact that I took time to learn the game, and they said, well, how long have you been playing for? A lot. I said, I've only been playing a couple weeks. They're like, oh my gosh. and understandably, it's a subjective situation, based on maybe how much they know or, how much they think I might know. But the point is, and me bringing this back around, is when if you're trying to really look at what is good for your server, right, which comes back around to the whole, you got a bunch of people that always want to be alpha, but they're not, and they really just need a reality check in a good way. It's good to have self-awareness where you're not doing things that are going to impact the server in a negative way. And this happened a lot when I was playing other Kingdom Builders. It's always going to be a thing, no matter what, right? You're always going to have players that want to be an R6, or they think they have enough knowledge and have enough experience to be an R6, and, their focus is, I just want to be the #1 alliance, or, I just want to be the top player, or I need to have all the spenders, right? I mean, I remember playing in servers where I had a guy that wanted, he was a part of one of my jump projects in another Kingdom Builder, and his idea was that because he got like the initial big whale within like the first week or two, was the #1 player on the server. And his idea was, well, I have the biggest whale. Everyone needs to appease the whale. Therefore, they need to appease me, which is my alliance. Right, and so this guy started asking for like more structures. He started asking for more territory. Right, he thought because he had the whale, it entitled him and his alliance, and now his viewpoint on how he was going to interact with the server and with our group. Now, anyone who knows me knows that bruh, that ain't gonna fly. Right, this is a team effort. There ain't no I in team. Right, you could be the A team because team is still connected, and you could be a great A in team. But you ain't gonna be no I in team. And people know that it don't matter if I've known you for a year or 2 years, right? I treat everyone the same, right? Everyone is treated equally and fairly based on what we're looking to build, right? And the type of servers and kingdoms that we do in my projects. And so the moment this happened, right, we outed this guy, and we told him, look, dude, if you're gonna act this way, then, right, we're not gonna support you, we'll drop you, right? And then if you become hostile, right, then obviously we'll take action. The point in me telling you this story is that this is one example of what can happen in servers and kingdoms, right? Players can think any kind of way, right, especially when you're at the leader position. More importantly, if you are the #1 alliance in a server. Why is that? Because the #1 alliance in a server is extremely important. And I'll probably do another video on talking about that. But the brief touch is that when you're the #1 alliance, you get asked a lot. People contact you for random stuff. It could be, hey, can you help us take a city? Hey, can you send some players here? Hey, can we come join? I mean, it could be anything and everything that people will ask you for. And there's a level of pressure and even responsibility, and at times accountability for your actions and the decisions you make as a leader of whomever is the current #1 alliance, whenever they're #1, that comes along with just having that top position. A lot of players don't know this, right? If you've never led an alliance before, you may not really have a grasp on how much time is really invested into it and how your decisions are all affecting how the server's development is going. That's why I talk about you always have players that want to be alpha, but they're not, right? They're betas. And that's not to say that they are not able to be alphas. But when you don't have enough knowledge and experience to really be, right, a true shot caller in the sense of being able to make good decisions for the health of your server based on where your server is going and where it's trending, right? Unless you're coming in with a big group, right, and you're coming in to kind of establish structure and the way that you'd like the server to run, right? Because keep in mind, the way that a server is going to go is going to be whomever has the largest presence and typically, at times, right, the highest amount of average power of people that also want to go in that direction. Now, this can be if you have an alliance, like I think S42 or 43, one of them, right? One of my buddies was telling me that they went in there with a big group of players, and they were all spenders. I mean, if you look at an example, I think it was like S11 or S12, right back when Roni was doing his thing, and he came in with like Death Squad, and they had a bunch of big players, right? Just a bunch of big spenders. They had like 9 or 10 or 11 VIP 15s in like the first couple weeks, right? It was ridiculous. If it's an example like that, and you have one alliance that is able to pretty much kind of, because they're so big, they can pretty much handle anyone, right? Then yeah, if you're in a situation like that, you are also able to kind of dictate where a server is going to go. That's one of the reasons I love this genre. I love these types of games. In my opinion, they are by far the best genre. If you're looking for something that is a competitive multiplayer style game, you can play with a lot of people, and you have this grand strategy element to it, this is the best genre within gaming that you can get that from because of everything it can bring you. Now, one of the things, and again, a lot of what I'm talking about is really more of historical reference, me giving you some stories, me giving you some examples, so you can have better information when you go into a server, into a new server, or even for your existing server, and you wonder why certain things happen the way they do, right? You could have top alliances that, keep in mind, the majority of new servers that open up is, right, are as far as the alliances that are created within those, these people do not know each other, right? The majority of new servers that open up are not filled with jumper groups, right? They're filled with new players or some existing small batches of players or just players that want to jump to a new server, right? You can see this if you look at the way, right, even if you look at how many jumping groups that are going on now, right, even if you look at other kingdom builders, right, where jumping groups are very prominent, they consistently happen, right, there's never going to be enough jumping groups to fill every single server. It just doesn't happen, right, which tends to then lead to the fact that most new servers trend in the sense where it's pretty much a free-for-all, right? You have a bunch of players that are just becoming R6s. You have no idea the level of knowledge or experience any of these R6s have. Do they have previous experience in being an R6 in a previous server? Have they played other kingdom builders, right? You don't know this unless you reach out to these people and ask. And then the challenge is you've already put yourself into this position where it's like too many cooks in the kitchen. Now, that doesn't mean that it's always going to be bad. It just means that there's a higher level of delicacy and care and just really TLC that goes along with it. And this is why it's important just to have a good understanding and good realistic expectations that, right, you have a lot of players, right, not a lot or a little, right, but you have a lot of leads that want to be alpha, they want to be the shot caller, right, they want to be able to kind of dictate things, right, they want to be able to, maybe they feel like their voice isn't heard enough, right, and so that can cause them to go rogue, or maybe that causes them to be more aggressive, and that leads to internal fighting, or, people not agreeing on things. Now, don't get me wrong, it is still fascinating, right, that this happens. Because in these kinds of games, right, all the devs have given you is this land, right, and you kind of have to till it. You have to build it. You have to maintain it. And it comes with a lot of responsibility and accountability because, right, depending on where a server goes, you're responsible for the players that are in your server. The challenge is that most leads don't think it like that. Most leads are just thinking of one, most likely themselves, and then two, probably some of the members, if not for their alliance. And most leads don't even think about what is in the best interest of their alliances. Man, I feel like I've touched on like 20 different topics that I probably could have just made like a single video or like 20 videos about. I probably still will. But yeah, again, I've thrown a lot at you. And I really hope that if there's a big takeaway from this video, it's that players that are going into servers, if you have not already experienced this, right? If you're going into a server, I hope you at least realize that, right, again, there's no I in team, right? And when you have a lot of leads that are trying to be alpha, right, that's where it's up to you to either fact check them or, right, try and be supportive, right? Or better yet, right, don't put yourself in that situation and make a good judgment call based on how that server's developing on if you're going to stay or if you're going to leave, right? It's really important. But, man, I have seen too many people that have just made alliances just for the sake of wanting to try to be number one or climb up the leaderboards, not caring about how that affects the server, how it affects the health, how it affects morale, how it affects the direction that a server and the development that it's going to go in. And it's just all about them. It's about their alliance and what they can get, not what can be given to everyone. So with that being said, I would love to hear your stories. If you have a story that you've experienced in a kingdom builder where you came across someone trying to be alpha in your server, right, that really wasn't alpha, I would love to hear what happened, right? How did their actions affect your experience and where the server went? Please let me know down in those comments below. That is it for me. We'll be back again for, I don't know if I want to call these like psychedelic psychology or, you know, the psychology. Someone give me a trendy name for this in the comments down below, right? And maybe I'll add it where we do like, I was going to be like psychedelic Wednesdays, but that just sounds too, it sounds too, you know, over the edge with illegal things. So give me some ideas on what you think maybe I can name the topic for this show. Otherwise, I'll just throw something up there. But yeah, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to know what you guys think. If you've experienced anything like what I have, if you've seen anything like what I have, let me know all and more. That's it for me. Until next time, we'll catch y'all later.